Okay, let's start our webinar with topik ngobrol daring, Keunikan Bahasa dan Budaya Indonesia Bagi Penutur Asing. Let's go! Okay.
Motori oleh anak-anak muda dari kedua bangsa ini. Memperkenalkan teman Indonesia, Mas Ridwan, dan juga teman-teman muda yang sangat cerdas dan bagus sekali. Ashley dan Hana yang kebetulan juga bekas murid saya. Ashley pernah ikut studi tour dengan saya ke Indonesia. Jadi dengan forum ini diharapkan tentu saja mereka dan kita semua bisa memperkuat pengenalan dan saling menjembatani antara budaya dan pentingnya bahasa Indonesia sebagai bahasa kedua di Australia, dan juga pentingnya mengenal bahwa banyak generasi baru Australia yang bisa dan akan belajar bahasa Indonesia. Saya kira saya itu saja yang bisa saya sampaikan. Saya sendiri juga dosen di Universitas Flinders di College Humanity, Arts and Social Sciences. Jadi saya juga berkepentingan untuk mempromosikan Universitas Flinders terhadap teman-teman di Indonesia yang ingin studi lanjut di sini. Saya kira nanti kita ada forum lain lagi yang khusus promosi tentang bidang-bidang kajian apa di college saya yang layak untuk dipikirkan bagi masa depan generasi muda Indonesia yang ingin belajar di Flinders, dan juga sebaliknya teman-teman muda Australia yang ingin memperdalam bahasa Indonesia dan kebudayaan Indonesia. Terima kasih. Itu saja. Saya kembalikan ke Mbak Desi. Wassalamualaikum. Salam sejahtera.
Okay.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Pak Budi. Baik Ibu, Bapak, rekan semuanya, perlu saya ingatkan juga bahwa obrolan daring kita kali ini mungkin akan campur sari bahasanya, ada bahasa Indonesia dengan bahasa Inggris, karena untuk mempermudah bagi para peserta ataupun para pembicara yang bukan penutur bahasa Indonesia gitu. Jadi so we are going to have two languages. We are going to have English and also bahasa Indonesia. Dan perlu juga kami ingatkan bahwa ini bagian dari berbagi pengalaman, sehingga berbagi pengalaman ini dilihat dari dua perspektif nanti Pak Ridwan sebagai pengajar yang membantu mengajar juga bahasa Indonesia di sini di Australia, kemudian juga dari dua pelajar bahasa Indonesia yang lain, yaitu Ashley dan Hannah. Okay. Baik, untuk saya akan berlanjut kepada kegiatan inti, yaitu mulai berbagi pengalaman. Dan berbagi pengalaman yang pertama ini akan disampaikan oleh Bapak Ridwan Arifin. Beliau adalah sebagai profesi sebagai linguis, kemudian juga pengajar di Politeknik Imigrasi di Indonesia. Beliau juga sekarang sedang melanjutkan studi masternya yang kedua di Flinders University. Kemudian beliau juga membantu mengajar di sini, mengajar bahasa Indonesia di Flinders University, dan juga beliau sebagai kontributor untuk kontributor biasa, ya betul, kontributor untuk penata istilah di Indonesia. Mungkin orang Kemendikbud ini sudah mengenal beliau sebagian. Baik, kepada Bang Ridwan, saya persilakan.
Baik, terima kasih moderator Bu Ibu Desiani. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, selamat siang waktu Australia. Selamat siang waktu Indonesia Timur. Saya Ridwan Arifin. Tadi udah dibacakan CV-nya. Kali ini, today we are going to talk about keunikan bahasa dan budaya Indonesia bagi penutur asing, the uniqueness of Indonesian language and culture for non-Indonesian speakers. Judulnya ngobrol daring. Saya akan berbagi cerita pengalaman membantu mengajar Pak Budi dan Bu Rosi selama ini di College of Humanities, Arts and Social Science. Ini perkenalan awal, introductions. This is my social media. Saya blogger aktif, dan ini Instagram saya, dan ini alamat surel saya atau email address. Agenda hari ini ada dua. Saya akan berbagi pengalaman. Sesi beragih ini sangat bermanfaat. There are two points. Today's talk about keunikan bahasa Indonesia sendiri. Ketika saya mengajar dan memberikan pengajaran, mungkin di setiap daerah berbeda, di setiap negara bagian berbeda, di setiap negara mungkin berbeda, baik dari suasananya, mahasiswanya sendiri. It's different. There is a totally different, significant difference between the sharing sessions, the students itself, and the other one, I would like to share. Selain itu, saya akan berbagi pengalaman dan bercerita tentang perkembangan bahasa Indonesia di Australia Selatan. The development of the Indonesian language and culture in the South Australia particularly. Ketika saya mengajar pertama kali itu 2019 di bulan Maret bersama Ibu Rosi dan Pak Budi membantu acara-acara kegiatan bahasa Indonesia dan budaya. First time I have joined the activities about the Indonesian language and culture programs at the Flinders University. Saya menemukan beberapa pengalaman menarik ya. There are some unique experience I have encountered bersama teman-teman dan students atau mahasiswa yang ada di Flinders. Ketika mengajar, karena saya bukan berbasis Bipa, saya bukan pengajar Bipa, basic saya pengajar bahasa. Yang pertama, ada uniknya di sini ada pengaruh bahasa daerah. Ketika saya memberikan pengajaran, ketika saya memberikan materi tentang percakapan sehari-hari atau bahasa atau kata, itu ada pengaruh bahasa daerah. Dan juga ada pengaruh dari kolokvial bahasa sehari-hari Indonesia yang sangat beragam. There are language varieties in Indonesian language itself, especially the colloquial and the local language itself. Nah, nanti saya akan jelaskan sedikit apa aja sih kira-kira yang contoh dari pengalaman tersebut. What are the examples of the language varieties in Indonesia and the colloquial after this. Kemudian ada juga isu atau pengalaman menarik, yaitu hilangnya huruf ya, letter elimination atau silent letter. Indonesian language doesn't exist, the silent letter. Bahasa Indonesia itu tidak mengenal hilangnya bunyi ya, kalau nggak salah. Kemudian berikutnya adalah partikel ya. Di sini ada partikel lah, kah, dongkek, loh ya. Nah, ini yang menurut saya menarik. Ketika saya buka dong, nah, misalkan open the door please, nah, buka dong, nah mereka dong is misalnya seperti itu. Ini menarik. It is interesting for me because Indonesian language have various particles. This is because of one of it is because of the bahasa daerah atau local language itself. Kemudian ada panggilan sapaan yang beragam. There are a lot of variety in Indonesian greetings. Mas, Mbak, Bang, Udah, Kak. While in English, as we know, kita mengenalnya dengan brother sister. Bahkan tidak ada, langsung aja memanggil, langsung manggil nama ya. We call them name. Hi Desi, hi gitu. Halo Budi. Tapi mereka mulai belajar tentang ada Pak, ada Mas, ada Mbak. Itu yang menarik buat saya, pengalaman menarik selama saya membantu 1 tahun sebelum ada COVID kemarin, before COVID-19 outbreak. Terus saya menjelaskan kepada mereka, kok bisa begini, kok bisa begitu. Mereka bertanya, they are asking me why there are language varieties, language greetings, different greetings, kolokvialnya begini. Artikel karena saya bilang ada, menurut data terakhir saya bilang ada 668 bahasa daerah. There are 668 number of local languages in Indonesia, mostly like this. Nah, mereka kaget. Wah, banyak sekali ya. Nggak usah bingung. Yang penting untuk basic-basic atau dasar-dasar pembelajaran bahasa Indonesia, mari kita belajar. Saya mengajarkan bahasa Indonesia kepada mereka satu melalui film, melalui kegiatan budaya dan musik. Kebetulan saya bermain musik. Kita memperkenalkan musik-musik traditional music, cultures and arts. Kemudian ada juga pengaruh ragam bahasa lisan, misalnya Indonesian Spoken Language, seperti judul dalam webinar kita kali ini namanya ngobrol daring ya, ngobrol. Saya pakai daring, menarik juga nih. Ada kata eng di situ, bukan bunyi eng, variasi bunyi language variety juga ada bunyi eng.
Oke, betul.
Ngobrol. Ini pengaruh bahasa Betawi ya.
Obrol.
This is the effect of language, Betawi language, if I'm not mistaken. Kemudian ada bunyi en juga ketika berbicara kata yang awalnya huruf S. Saya bilang begitu sih. Misalkan sapu, menyapu, terus nya hilang. Nah, ibuan nya jadi nyapu.
C juga nyampur.
Mulai mencoba itu. Walaupun ya itu kan untuk bahasa non formal ya, ragam bahasa lisan yang mereka bisa pakai di Jogja nanti, ya di Bali nanti ketika mau nawar harga atau kok lebih natural lihatnya. Terus ada ragam bahasa juga M ketika dia ada P, misalnya memuji, memaku gitu. Jadi M-nya hilang, memuji, maku, apalagi ya selain P. Nah, itu banyak soalnya. There are also words varieties atau kalau nggak salah ini namanya alomorph ya, variasi bunyi dalam imbuhan. Terus ada N juga yang diikuti dengan T ya, huruf T. Misalnya taro ya, please menaruh, saya menaruh, naroh gitu. Jadi they're a bit confused about this one. Mereka sedikit bingung, tapi ya tidak apa-apa. Mereka kadang bertanya juga, ini apa, gitu. Misalnya ngobrol apa, nyanyi apa, nyapu apa, gitu. Memaku apa, menaruh apa, gitu. Kemudian ada juga di akhiran juga pengaruh bahasa Betawi in ya. Please try, tolong coba. Kadang mereka bingung waktu pulang dari Jogja atau dari Bali atau dari Indonesia, mereka terpengaruh ada in-nya di belakang. Jadi apa ya mereka? Nah, ini unik sekali bahasa Indonesia di sini menurut saya. Kemudian ada kata seperti kaya, seperti mirip ya. Banyak di orang Indonesia, Indonesian language speakers, they talk about kaya, yang artinya seperti atau mirip, ketimbang berbicara dengan seperti mirip. Other than saying seperti or mirip, they prefer say kaya. Kayak gimana? Seperti apa? Nah, mereka something unique with this kind of word. Kemudian ada kata lagi. Mereka juga bertanya, adalah kata lagi sebagai the word lagi as again atau the word lagi as sedang. Saya lagi makan, saya sedang ketimbang ya. Instead of saying sedang, Indonesian people they speak with lagi gitu. Saya lagi makan, saya lagi belajar. Nah, ini something unique also juga. It is something unique for the non-Indonesian language speakers. Terus ada kata udah, belum, dan bakal. Ketika saya ngobrol, ketika saya di kelas untuk diskusi, mereka juga bertanya ada kata udah, dan terutama kan mereka berkomunikasi pakai teks ya atau WA ya. The Australian students here usually they text atau through WhatsApp. Ya, di situ ada percakapan ragam tulisan, actually it is ragam bahasa lisan, it's Indonesian spoken language, tapi dimasukin ke dalam bahasa tulisan. Nah, ini juga terpengaruh juga jadi berubah-berubah. Ada kata belum, apa, bingung mereka, what is this, belum apa belum. Nah, terus ada kata bakal yang menggantikan akan ya, akan, kayak gitu. Jadi ini ragam bahasa lisan that I find it is really interesting dan it is really unique for them, dan ini kaya ya, this is very rich. Kemudian ada yang unik juga yaitu penghilangan H. Hilangnya, this is also a bit confusing buat mereka, atau mungkin saya pribadi ya pengajar, pengalaman saya cerita gitu. Ketika saya bilang hujan, mereka menemukan kata hujan ketika di teks gitu. Udah ada artif gitu. Kemudian ya ini seterusnya, ini di awal. Terus ada juga mereka, apakah kamu tahu? Nah, mereka bilangnya tahu. Jadi ada letter elimination atau soundnya, silent word di kita itu tahu jadi tahu. Gitu. Ini menarik buat saya karena seperti kata jahil gitu. Ini biar ada lihat ke sana, lihat atau lihat gitu. Ada yang bilang. Kemudian di belakang juga yang saya temukan di belakang ya, final word itu ada jodoh, misalnya jodohnya. Tapi ini kebanyakan ini sedikit sih kasus ini, tapi mereka menemukan itu. Nah, kebalikan dengan orang Indonesia, Indonesian language, Indonesian speakers, penutur bahasa Indonesia, orang Indonesia sendiri native itu bilangnya, malah kebanyakan bilang himbau ketimbang imbau, utang ketimbang utang. Ini yang bingung, ini yang mana sih yang benar, which one is correct gitu buat mereka. Sementara yang harusnya pakai ada haknya harus pakai gitu. Kayak hujan-hujan gitu. Nah, andal atau handal gitu. Nah, this is something interesting, menarik fenomena ini di Indonesia. Kemudian juga selain itu ada, ketika saya mengajar juga ada letter elimination yang S, M, N, K, ada penghilangan dari huruf S dan N dan K. Contohnya tadi kan udah disebutkan, ada kata sudah jadi udah, ada kata saja jadi aja. Sebenarnya ini menarik ketika ini sebuah kekuatan dan ini berbahasa mereka lebih natural gitu, lebih alami. This is very interesting for them because when they try using these words or speaking with these words in spoken language, they look natural. Sama seperti kita yang berbahasa Inggris mungkin ya. Tapi language varieties dalam bahasa Inggris untuk seperti ini kayaknya rada jarang. Ada tapi kita cenderung formal. Ada sih misalkan kalau di sini kalau Australian slang misalkan breakfast jadi breaky gitu, tapi jarang sekali sih saya temukan breaky. Terus banyak ya. Kemudian bahasa Indonesia berikutnya ada memang. Nah, mereka juga kaget ketika ada emang. Nah, padahal harus emang. Ketika kawan bicaranya saya orang Indonesia atau teman-teman saya di sini orang Indonesia menulis emang sudah, emang tahu, udah yang bilang mereka, padahal yang diajarin memang seperti itu. Kemudian ada letter elimination K yang belakangnya dihilangkan K. Misalnya kita nggak menyebut kakak kamu di kakek gitu misalnya. Terus rokok, nenek, tidak juga, bahkan bahkan kita enggak. Dia ini pengenalan yang sangat menarik. Mungkin akhirnya saya perkenalkan kepada mereka, ya enggak atau tidak gitu, tanpa tak juga norak juga. Oke. Kemudian terakhir pengalaman saya adalah saya perkembangan bahasa Indonesia selama setahun saya amati bahwa perkembangannya itu bagus sekali, tapi cenderung menurun. Pertama di Australia itu ada yang namanya Immersion Day, terutama di Flinders lain. I didn't find any this kind of activities or program in other uni here, seperti Immersion Day. Kemudian Immersion Day itu kita ngumpul bareng di akhir semester, student mahasiswa di sini yang terutama jurusan bahasa Indonesia di bawah Pak Budi tadi, di CHAS. Kemudian adanya jembatan Flinders, ada Ppia Flinders juga mendukung New Colombo Plan, nanti akan dijelaskan oleh Hana lebih banyak sana. Terus ada dua perkumpulan mahasiswa yang satu dari mahasiswa, ini pemuda-pemudanya remaja-remaja dan mahasiswa-mahasiswanya di Australia Selatan. Mungkin tempat lain juga ada. Ini cukup aktif. Kemudian ada Intan, ini perkumpulan guru-guru bahasa Indonesia sekelas SD, SMP, SMA di South Australia. Kegiatan program yang saya ikuti, yang saya amati di sini ada Indofest, Aus Asia, konser gamelan dan tarian Jawa di Pendopo. Ini sangat aktif kemarin sebelum corona. Tiap bulan mungkin ada kegiatan bahasa Indonesia dan budaya. Menurut saya ini diplomasi yang bagus. This is a good activation program for Indonesia. Indonesian government actually has to see this very well. Karena this is a good program and activities as a diplomasi ya, exchange of culture and language. Terus kemudian ada kerjasama juga saya lihat ada dengan UGM, UPI, UIN, UNPAD. Saya lihat di sini ada seminar, karya, residensi, temanya seni, budaya, pertunjukan film. In the Flinders University has the cooperation. I think it's a strategic partnership with UGM, UPI, UIN, UNPAD in relation to seminar and workshops and residency. It's about arts, cultures and performance, and even films. Dan terakhir dengan Prof. Al-Makin kemarin bersama alumni Flinders ada Interfaith Symposium, itu bahkan di luar bahasa dan budaya, it's other than language and culture, agama malah ya, keagamaan ya, lintas agama, menarik sekali dibahas di sini. Tapi ada challenges, ada tantangan yang there are challenges that have to be considered here, yang harus diperhatikan. Saya terlihat di sini bahasa Indonesia hanya ada di kampus Flinders pengajarannya ya, only in Flinders University. Saya lihat untuk di South Australia terutama. Terus, namun cenderung menurun kalau menurut saya lihat, karena masih banyak memilih belajar bahasa Jepang dan bahasa Mandarin. Ini tantangan. This is challenges for Indonesian government, pemerintah Indonesia, bahwa mahasiswa cenderung banyak belajar bahasa Jepang dan Mandarin. Ini why? Kenapa? Ini kita diplomasinya harus kencang nih. Di South Australia tidak ada balai bahasa seperti negara bagian lain. Saya nggak tahu sejarahnya bagaimana, tapi ini kan saya hanya menyampaikan fakta. I just reveal some facts in here during my study 1 year in 2019. Saya lihat belum ada pelatihan pengembangan diri pengajar atau dosen dalam bentuk lokakarya atau seminar. I didn't find any strategic trainings atau capacity buildings atau in terms of workshop atau seminar saya nggak lihat. Saya lihat kayak mungkin ini dugaan saya, jangan-jangan ada pendanaan yang minim nih, ada funding yang I think is low budget or fundings yang nggak memadai, padahal antusiasnya tinggi, tapi mungkin it might be about budget. Kemudian adanya penutupan pelajaran bahasa Indonesia di sekolah. I find that some Indonesian language studies, subjects in the schools has been closed or shut down. Ya, di South Australia terutama saya lihat ada beberapa sekolah. Ini menarik. Why? Ini perlu dijadi kajian bagi bangsa Indonesia. Apa pemerintah Indonesia, Indonesian government has to see this. Why? Kemudian mungkin resourcesnya ya, sumber pengetahuannya, bukunya, buku ajar, mungkin bisa di-download di Bipa, mungkin ya, Bipa Kemendikbud, mungkin ini saran dari saya. Kemudian karakter mahasiswa warga Australia Selatan ini a bit different. The students of characters of in South Australia is a bit different from other students in other states. Mungkin ya, saya menemukan di sini dari segi antusiasme, itu sebagian kecil yang antusias, yang aktif, yang berani, yang mau berdiskusi. They would like to discuss and share experience and everything. Dan bahkan terakhir, the last part is about adanya penurunan, yaitu kuantitas. Saya melihat adanya penurunan pendaftaran. Mungkin dipengaruhi, maybe it's about pelajaran bahasa Indonesia di sekolah yang ditutup, jadi pendaftaran ke universitas itu menurun. It has the enrollment, the numbers of students enrollment to the Flinders University, especially in language, applied linguistics, Indonesian language especially, it has decreased. Terima kasih, waktu saya sudah habis. Mohon maaf atas penjelasan yang panjang lebar ini. Jika ada pertanyaan, silakan. Mohon maaf atas kekurangannya, dan demikian. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih Pak Ridwan atas berbagi pengalamannya mengajarkan bahasa Indonesia di Flinders University. Perlu saya ingatkan kepada Bapak Ibu dan rekan-rekan semuanya, kami akan membuka pertanyaan jawab, question and answer will be open speakers present. So nanti kami akan membuka sesudah selesai semua presentasi dan kami memohon Ibu dan Bapak atau rekan-rekan semuanya menuliskan pertanyaan di chat, di kolom chat, karena kalau langsung walaupun ataupun melalui reaksi ini saya agak kesulitan untuk melihat semua ininya karena kita terbatas di screen dan banyak sekali yang bergabung di daring kita hari ini. Baik Ibu dan Bapak, pembicara kita yang kedua adalah Ashley Ramachandran. Ashley is a Law and International Relations student of Flinders University. Kemudian Ashley juga pernah bergabung di program Immersion, Flexible Language Immersion Program, yang diselenggarakan atas kerjasama dengan Universitas Gajah Mada. Dan Ashley juga aktif sebagai Flinders Legal Advice Clinic. Kemudian Ashley juga aktif di kegiatan-kegiatan berupa intercultural or interworkplace activities. Baik, tanpa berlama lagi akan saya persilahkan pada Ashley. Ashley, are you ready? Where is Ashley?
Ya, terima kasih.
Okay. Ashley, the floor is yours. Silakan.
Okay. Selamat siang semua. So my name is Ashley and I am a student. I study Law and International Relations at Flinders University in South Australia. And today I want to talk about my experience with Indonesia, as well as my experience in learning Bahasa Indonesia as a beginner with a teacher's the Flexible Language Immersion Program. So I want to start by talking about my experience with Indonesia and how I became interested. As mentioned a lot earlier by Pak Budi, a few years ago, I decided to go on the Indonesia study tour, which is a new Colombo planned funded study tour as part of Flinders University. We spent 2 weeks in Indonesia, which is a relatively short amount of time, but I learned a lot from Indonesia as that was my first real opportunity visiting Indonesia. In the first week, we went to Jogja and I had the opportunity to listen to some really great lecturers at UGM, and they taught me a lot about not just Indonesian culture, but the history, the politics, the background of Indonesian society, and that was really, really interesting. In that week, that was also my first time learning a bit of Bahasa Indonesia. We went to Wisma Bahasa for a very short few days to learn basic greetings, learn about how to introduce ourselves in Indonesian, and learning simple things like how to order food so that we could get around. That was really, really fun. That was my first time learning language in a long time, and it made me realize that learning Bahasa Indonesia is really fun, and maybe that's something I want to do in the future. The second week we went to Jakarta. We went to government and ministries, and we also went to the Australian Embassy. And I wanted to learn more about Indonesia, how I can get involved. And so
Okay.
since coming back, I
Yes,
have
back.
been involved with going to events. For instance, in the middle picture there, that's IndoFest in Adelaide. I went last year, and that was a really great opportunity because that was my first IndoFest, and I got to see a lot of the cultural performances. I got to listen to talks about the Ppia, and the best part was to eat lots of delicious Indonesian food, which I really like. And I think my favorite food will have to include, probably rendang and mie ayam. That remains my favorite food to this day. And on the third picture, really great in celebration of the 50th anniversary of Flinders Jambatan, I got to attend a networking evening, and there also is in that picture there. And that was really great because it showed showing that when Australians and Indonesians come together, we can make a lot of meaningful connections with each other. So all these events and more inspired me to then go and learn some Indonesian in Jogja. So at the start of this year, at the end of January, I was a student as part of the Flexible Language Immersion program. So the program is intended to go for one semester. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I had to leave early. So I only had the opportunity to be in country for 6 weeks, and I completed younger, I learned Mandarin, and that's characters. Words are pronounced as well. And very easy to learn the basic greetings, and I like that. And of course, very commonly I get asked where I'm from. Often people think I'm Indonesian, which I'm not. I'm from Singapore, and now I'm Australian. So very easy to say "Saya dari Australia," and they understand immediately that I'm not a native speaker. The second thing I found really unique is I really like that the is gender neutral. I think it's very fun and refreshing in a language. I also like it means that if in Indonesian love songs, if they use dia, it can apply to the boy or the girl. And I really like that. I think it's fun. And another thing I really like about learning Indonesian is the common base words. I felt like once I learned the base words of a language, I could very much easily build on that and improve quite quickly. But as many of you know, there's also many challenges with learning Indonesian. The biggest challenge I faced when I was in Jogja was how different it was in the classroom at UGM to not in full, in short, and so that makes it very challenging for someone that is new. I remember trying to book a Grab, and I couldn't understand anything he was saying because the entire text was in short form, and I put some examples on there. The second thing that makes it really difficult in learning is Indonesians talk very, very, very fast. It means that I have to listen really actively and always be trying to absorb as much as I can. And I'm sure that comes with practice, but that is a skill that I hope that I can develop in my listening. The third thing is building confidence. It's really scary to speak a language when you don't know it, because it's very scary, because like I'm afraid I'll make mistakes in the language. But one thing is really good is Indonesians are very friendly, and even if I make mistakes when I speak, they're really accommodating and very nice. And this is probably linked to the fact that people think I'm Indonesian, and so people assume that I am a native or fluent speaker sometimes. And so I get scared to speak, because if I speak, it will be broken and it won't be perfect, and that really scares me. So that's something I need to work and improve on, and that is something that is a lot harder to improve when you're trying to learn online itself. That confidence comes more naturally because every day you are practicing. And the last thing I really struggle with is titles very confusing. This, as a beginner, is a really big challenge. I've put some examples on there. I don't really want to go into it too much, but it is just a whole new world, because I realize that I'm not very good at grammar in English. So when trying to learn grammar rules in Indonesian, it's really a hard time for me. But most of all, my time in Indonesia is always very special, because I get to meet a lot of people and experience things for myself, and that's the best part. I put some pictures here that while I went to Indonesia to learn as part of the language immersion program, when I finished the program, I learned so much more. In the top left photo, we were at a warung, and that's our friend Akbar, who is very friendly, and he became like my informal language coach, because there's so much informal everyday slang that I didn't know, and so he would teach us, and that was really fun. In the middle photo on the top, I had the opportunity to speak at an UGM international student event, talking about me recently getting to Indonesia and my experiences, and that was an amazing opportunity because I got to dress up in traditional kebaya. And that was really unique. And in the top right, that was some friends that I met. And it was very cool how I met them, because on the study tour that Pak Budi took in 2019, this girl, Miranda, she became friends with some students at Flinders University, and they introduced me to her, so I got to meet her in person, and then she introduced me to her friends. So that's a really good example of how close the ties are between Flinders University in South Australia and in Indonesia, and how people can make friends. On the bottom right, that was the film festival I went to. I watched Top End Wedding, which is an Australian film set in the Northern Territory. It was really a bonding experience because the crowd was full, and when everyone would laugh at the same time and maybe cry, it was really a special bonding moment to watch a movie, Australians and Indonesians together. The bottom middle photo, that is from an Achievers field trip, and on the bottom left photo, that was my last week in Indonesia with two of the Achievers staff, and it made me very sad that I had to leave because I had such a great time, and I really wish that I could have stayed for 6 months. And I hope that in the future I can go to Indonesia for a long period of time and experience and improve my Indonesian, because I really had the best time. So I hope that that was interesting and maybe insightful to some of you to talk about my experience as a non-native speaker. And if you want to stay in touch, I put my SOSMED links on there. I would love to, maybe have a chat afterwards or answer any questions. Thank you for inviting me, and I think I'll pass it now to Hannah or Ibu Desi again. Thank you. I will stop sharing.
Baik, terima kasih Ashley. Sudah berbagi pengalamannya luar biasa ya. Tidak disangka, we never expected that. You share things very original and especially related to Grab. Tidak pernah terpikir oleh saya juga. Grab dan Gojek ini akan menjadi satu masalah dalam penggunaan bahasa karena ada beberapa bahasa yang disingkat ya, abbreviated. So maybe that makes a beginners of the language has the difficulties. Baik, terima kasih Ashley. Sekarang saya akan juga mengundang pembicara yang ketiga, yaitu Hannah. Hannah Brimstone. Terlebih dahulu akan saya share sedikit mengenai Hannah. Hannah merupakan mahasiswa Bachelor of Laws and Legal Practice di Flinders University. Hannah juga sebelumnya belajar mengenai psychological science, juga belajar bahasa Indonesia dan mendapatkan gelar diploma untuk bahasa Indonesia. Jadi mungkin Hannah akan lebih bisa berbahasa Indonesia ya, bahasa Indonesianya lebih ini. Kemudian Hannah juga merupakan Flinders Connect Officer, dan Hannah juga terlibat di beberapa kegiatan, baik itu kegiatan yang sifatnya government relation intern ataupun research, dan research-nya pun berhubungan dengan research berkontribusi pada human trafficking, kemudian juga pada bidang law and accounts clerk or immigration law, kemudian juga mengenai family law. Hannah juga mendapatkan kesempatan sebagai penerima New Colombo Plan scholar, dan Hannah juga terlibat di beberapa kegiatan pertukaran, dan salah satunya juga pertukaran pelajar dengan pada program yang diselenggarakan bersama dengan Universitas Gajah Mada. Baik, pada Hannah saya persilakan. Hannah, oke. Hannah, the floor is yours.
Terima kasih Ibu. Selamat siang semua. Nama saya Hannah. Saya akan coba berbicara dalam bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris, bahasa campur ya. Sebelum saya mulai, saya mau I want to just acknowledge that I'm speaking from the traditional land of the Wiradjuri people in Bathurst, and I just wanted to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Hi, Hannah.
So now I will start. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so yeah. So as I said before, my name is Hannah. Saya belajar 3 gelar at the same time. So Bachelor of Hukum, Psikologi, dan Bahasa Indonesia juga. Then I wanted to talk a little bit today about my experiences, not only studying language, but experiences I've had both in Australia and in Indonesia about things related to Indonesia. So I started my studies at Flinders University in 2012, but I didn't add my Diploma of Language until 2015, and that was after I went to Bali, like every Australian does, for a holiday. And when I went to Bali, I absolutely fell in love with the language and the encouragement, so I really wanted to formally study it. And so in 2015 I added a Diploma of Language in Indonesian, and then since then I've had so many incredible experiences. I think my slideshow is almost 20 slides long, so I'll try and be quick. So in 2015, I went on the pilot New Colombo Plan study tour that Flinders ran, and we were based in Bali for the first part, where we did a language course, and then we went to Jakarta to Yogyakarta to do some law and further cultural workshops. And that was sort of my first experience living in Indonesia. I stayed in a homestay, and basically got to live with a family, and my
things with the family, and that included visiting the grandchildren when they were sick in hospital, and then eating everything from soto to miscellaneous things packed in banana leaf with rice. Yeah, terrifying cross near Yogyakarta, and you can see on the other side. So I'll skip through more. So my next in country was. Oh, sorry, I think someone's microphone is not on mute. I don't know if I can mute. Okay. So my next experience in country was in 2018 on the Achichi's Law and Law Professional Practicum, and that program was basically a couple of weeks of intensive language training, and then another couple of weeks of law courses mixed with cultural experiences, and then a short-term internship. And I interned for an organisation called Puskapa, which does a lot of research into child protection, so things like human trafficking and juvenile justice and that sort of thing. So this photo here is of a reception with the Charity Affairs of Australia in Jakarta, and this photo is my first time having nasi padang, and as my kos bapak said to me when I came home with takeaway nasi padang one day, he laughed and he said, "Ha ha ha, bule suka makan nasi padang." And yeah, he was very impressed that I was sitting there eating the rendang and nasi with my hands. So yeah, I really enjoy the food, really enjoy the culture, and these are Chichis, and for those that don't know, Chichis stands for the Australian Consortium for In-Country Indonesian Studies. They do both short and long-term programs, and this was my first Chichis program, and then I went on to do 2 more this year, and they're a really great opportunity to get some experience in country, meet other Australians that are also very interested in Indonesia. So moving on, this is another couple of photos from that Chichis trip. This photo is from the time that I tried sate ular in northern Jakarta, which was in Adelaide. So moving on, yeah, so also as part of that Achichi's trip at the start of 2018, I was able to attend a few Australia-Indonesia workshops and networking events. So one was with youth, and that was at the Australian Embassy, and I got to work on a pitch for a global solution to a problem. So we talked about how to sort of resolve tension between Australia and Indonesia in terms of migration policy. And the other photo is at the Digital Forum, where we got to see basically different people from the technology sector present about the online Indonesia-Australia relationship, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
Back in Australia, and you can see Pak Budi is there in the middle. Back in Australia, I got really involved in different organisations in Adelaide, so studying in Adelaide with Ashley as well. So one of the organisations that I joined was called the Young Australians in International Affairs, and my major initiative that I pushed our organisation to hold was an Australia-Indonesia Relations panel. And that was really interesting to hear insights from the panellists about Australia-Indonesia relations. And yeah, it was really well attended. We had people from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. There was a big delegation visiting from Indonesia that came to that. And it was just really exciting to be able to connect such a big audience to those important issues in the Australia and Indonesia relationship, particularly as advocated by youth. So one of the major things that I was involved in is the Australia-Indonesia Youth Association. So I started becoming involved in this in 2017, and eventually in 2018 think 2018, 2019, I was the president of the South Australian branch. And we did lots of initiatives that connected Australians and Indonesians. So from everything, this photo is a hike, and this is just before we got lost in a forest. And we did a lot of hikes, and we got to see a lot of Australian nature, which was, it's really exciting to be able to show Indonesians koalas and native birds and other sort of plants and things that you see. This other photo on this side is at a bukbar. So we had a Breaking the Fast event during Ramadan, and that was also really well attended. And I think through the Youth Association is my sort of first hands-on sort of look into Muslim culture and finding out about traditions and practices, and it really helps, I think, to break down those sort of stigma that exist in Australia. A really important event, which I think I have a photo a little bit later on, is a booklet that I held in my own home, and it was so interesting. Indonesians come to my house, we cooked together, then we broke the fast together, and I set up my spare room as a prayer room, which is something that I've never done before, not having a religion myself. So that was a really interesting experience, and something that I wouldn't have otherwise experienced not for my interest in Indonesia. So these are a few more photos. We're at an AFL game here. I think the Crows lost, which was sad. We're at Indonesian Cultural Night here. We're playing the angklung. These are from a language exchange, and that's a part of a regular initiative that we did where Indonesians and Australians and anyone else that was interested could exchange language, and they were always fun. Another fun thing that I got to do because of my involvement in Indonesia is go to the Bali Democracy Students Conference. You can see me at the front, and here's our foreign minister. And it was really great to meet people from all over the world who are interested in Indonesia and interested in youth. Here's another photo, and I also got to meet Ibu Retno Marsudi, who is the Indonesian Foreign Minister, and this photo was on page 2 of the Jakarta Post, so I felt a little bit terkenal, famous. And this photo is my buddy, so that was probably the best part of this experience, is that we were paired with a buddy for the 4-day conference, and this conference happened in 2018, but actually when I was in Jakarta early this year, I met up with my buddy because she had just moved from Bandung to Jakarta, and it was really exciting to see her and see that she graduated and got a job, and just to build those relations, those genuine people-to-people links, is so important and so valuable. Other events that I've attended are the Heads of ASEAN Morning Tea, again connecting with very inspired and passionate Australian and Indonesian youth. Indofest, I was involved with volunteering for Indofest for a couple of years and got to go on a tour of Parliament House with the committee because they had just received the Multicultural Award for SA for the hard work that they put into the Indofest, which is, as Ashley mentioned, a fantastic showcase of Indonesian culture and food in South Australia. Fortunately, I got to be a panelist on one of the panels about the IACPA and talking about what that important agreement means for youth, and particularly in getting youth to Australia. And just on that, I think that's probably one of the challenges, I think, as an Indonesian language learner in Australia, is it's excellent that initiatives like Australia Awards exist so that Indonesian students come to Australia and that Australian students can meet them. But usually the case is that they are the Indonesian students that come to Australia are often married and with children and in a bit of a different stage of their life to the undergraduates studying language. So sometimes it is a bit hard to connect on a social level. So my recommendation recommendation for anyone that has the power is to get more undergraduate Indonesian youth to Australia in order to build those connections. What's next? So as I'm very involved with the New Colombo Plan Scholarship, and so New Colombo Plan is a fantastic initiative of the Australian government, and basically the aim is to connect Australia and the region through these short-term and long-term study programs. So the short-term programs that Ashley and I have been on, the study tour, the New Colombo Plan funded, but there's also two other types of New Colombo Plan funding. There's the semester grant, and then there's also a scholarship where you can study in the region for up to 19 months. And so last year I was fortunate to be the first Flinders student to receive this scholarship, and I spent half of my program in Papua New Guinea, and the second half of my program was supposed to be in Indonesia. Tetapi karena ada wabah penyakit, aku harus pulang a little bit early, which was very sad because I was supposed to be in Indonesia until at least September. So it was very sad to leave, but I really enjoyed the few months I had there earlier this year. So these are a couple of photos before I left Adelaide. So in the top photo, you have my house, and I had some of my friends come over before they were going back to Indonesia. So they had some of them had finished their master's degrees and were returning home. And one of them I'll talk about later because I've actually met up with a couple of them in Indonesia this year. And the bottom photo is bukber in my house, so having Indonesians and Australians come to my home to break the fast. Yeah. So earlier this year, I went to Indonesia early January this year, just after New Year's, and so I did a further 2 Achichis courses. So I did a short-term course, and then I started my semester at UGM. So my short-term course was in Salatiga, and after completing that, my friend Henny, who's in this picture over the side here, I don't actually know if you can see that, but here, my friend Henny, she works now at the pesantren in just near Semarang in Kendal, and so I stayed at the Islamic boarding school for a couple of nights and was able to see how the school worked, and I got to give a presentation about Australian culture on Australia Day, which is very interesting. But just seeing how long the kids are awake for and how hardworking they are, it was very different to the school I went to in Australia. This is an event in Jakarta, so the inaugural AYA Congress, and so this photo we're at the Australian Embassy in Jakarta, and this is at a networking event with AYA alumni, and basically it was a conference of dedicated Australian and Indonesian youth, and it was held one weekend in Sydney and the next weekend in Jakarta, and we got to discuss all things Australian-Indonesia youth, and it was, again, just so inspiring to have these people so invested in the relationship. And that brings us to this year. So these are a couple of photos from my semester and my short language course. Teaching in a school was exciting. Having to teach entirely in Bahasa Indonesia was new. And meeting children, which I haven't really met children in Australia, and it's just a different dynamic, just so excited, and they laugh at my pronunciation, and they knew more about koalas than I did, which was really surprising. And just having a really wonderful time at UGM. So that's the end. I'm very happy to answer any questions, and I'll stop sharing now. Thank you.
Baik. Terima kasih Hana sudah berbagi pengalamannya. Dan Ibu, Bapak, rekan-rekan semua akan dibuka sesi questions and answers, sesi tanya jawab, dan pertanyaan pertama dan beberapa pertanyaan ini ada untuk Pak Ridwan, ada juga untuk Ashley dan Hannah. Saya akan persilakan terlebih dahulu Pak Ridwan untuk menjawab beberapa pertanyaan dari Pak Bona, dari Pak Jamal juga ya. Silakan Pak Ridwan.
Dari Pak Bonifasius tadi ya, untuk pengajaran budaya apa, kan banyak subbudaya di Indonesia. Budaya apa dulu yang diajarkan? Karena yang pertama adalah saya memperkenalkan semuanya, jenis-jenisnya dulu apa aja, berapa jumlahnya. Kemudian saya fokuskan terhadap yang pertama itu budaya Jawa dulu, Sunda, baru Bali. Ini yang pertama, first stage ya. Karena di sini ternyata di pendopo itu ruangan khusus seperti pendopo, memang isinya gamelan Jawa, sumbangan dari yang sudah disumbangkan dari orang Indonesia atau dosen Indonesia kalau nggak salah, ceritanya itu lengkap gamelannya. Dari situ Pak Budi selaku penanggung jawab pendopo dan inisiatornya membuat kegiatan-kegiatan tarian Jawa, gamelan Jawa, dan itu kita belajar kebudayaan Jawa dulu di situ. Nah itu saya pelajari, saya termasuk juga belajar gamelan, mungkin Hana juga belajar ya, dan Ashley juga sempat belajar gamelan kan. Nah di situ kami belajar dulu gamelan, dan kita mengundang dari isi Yogyakarta untuk berbagi cerita tentang menari tarian Jawa tradisionalnya gitu. Itu yang pertama. Baru kita mengajarkan yang budaya-budaya lainnya, seperti budaya yang dari Sumatera. Dari Sumatera itu mungkin makanannya kita tampilkan, terus dari daerah NTT atau Papua Barat atau Papua atau Sulawesi itu saya hadirkan, atau Lombok, Mataram itu saya hadirkan juga, tapi saya kaitkan dengan wisatanya ya, pariwisatanya dan alamnya yang indah. Kemudian saya nara blog atau blogger, saya tunjukkan juga bahwa saya pernah ke sana, ini blog saya, silakan. Nah itu jadi menarik gitu. Jadi itu yang pancingan saya sih sebenarnya selama belajar di sini. Saya mikir gimana ya caranya. Nah kemudian pertanyaan berikutnya, terima kasih dari Pak Bonifasius itu, bahwa beliau selalu melakukan analisis kebutuhan komunikasi ya, termasuk di dalam kebutuhan kontak budayanya. Kemudian ada pertanyaan dari Pak Setia, bahwa Pak Setia sering memanfaatkan video dokumenter budaya pendek untuk pembelajaran CCU, cross culture understanding ya, bagi mahasiswa calon guru Bipa media lain. Apakah yang sungguh efektif untuk mengajarkan CCU? Betul sekali, video dokumenter ini saya juga pakai ya di YouTube saya coba putar, kemudian yang sudah ada di Flinders dari Ibu Rosi atau Pak Budi sudah ada, saya coba putar kembali. Nah, untuk yang lebih efektif lagi mengajarkan CCU itu, kalau saya pribadi di sini, kita coba pakai seperti yang live tadi, misalkan di sini ada juga komunitas angklung ya, dari Pak Ferry, komunitas angklung Indo itu ada. Nah kita coba kerjasama, jadi real gitu, nyata gitu. This is a real things, bahwa belajar budayanya dia bisa pegang, bisa nyobain gitu. Sama juga the same like Balinese, di sini juga ada Balinese community. Kita coba untuk gabung untuk memperkenalkan budaya Bali juga, ada tariannya, ada alat musiknya gitu. Nah kemudian yang terakhir adalah caranya itu untuk biar efektif ya, kita melibatkan mereka live ya, langsung jam session. Karena saya bermain musik kebetulan, jadi cuma saya masukin ke dalam, saya main piano kebetulan itu, saya masukkan ke dalam musik tradisional ya, nada-nada pentatonik. Jadi real langsung itu praktek budayanya. Kemudian ada pertanyaan dari Pak Yakut Fahmilda ya. Ini pertanyaannya, Pak Yakub ini tutor Inculs ya, INCWRS dari Volunteer Study, Student Body ICICS dari Yogyakarta. Pertanyaannya adalah, beliau tertarik sekali dengan agenda bahasa Indonesia sebagai program diplomasi Indo-Australia. Pertanyaannya, apakah fokus utama pengajaran bahasa Indonesia yang diajarkan di sekolah dan universitas di sini? Untuk di UNIS, sebenarnya fokusnya adalah percakapan dasar, kosakata, pengenalan budaya, bahkan ke tingkat penulisan ya, intinya itu. Tapi yang utamanya kita kenalin dulu yang mudah-mudah dulu saja, kosakata kita tambah percakapan dasar, karena kita punya program di sini untuk visit tadi seperti Hana dan Ashley untuk ke Indonesia, Yogyakarta dan Bali. Jadi itu bridging ke sana, we bridge them buat basic. Kemudian pertanyaan kedua, apakah pengajaran bahasa mencakup secara langsung bahasa Indonesia sebagai diplomasi dengan Australia? Harusnya iya, dan pastinya iya, dan salah satunya bahasa ya, menurut saya. Seperti Jepang mempunyai Japan Foundation di Indonesia, Erasmus Swiss ada untuk Belanda, Goethe Institute untuk Jerman. Itu bagian dari diplomasi. Kita bagus sekali mempunyai beberapa sudah bikin misalnya balai bahasa, tapi nggak semua gitu. Maksudnya kita mau lihat keseriusannya aja, itu aja sih, komitmen. Kemudian pertanyaan berikutnya, sebagai pembelajaran dan pertukaran bersama, bagaimana perbandingan fokusan pengajaran bahasa asing? Indonesia, Jepang, Mandarin. Menarik sekali. Untuk yang sependek pengetahuan saya untuk bahasa Jepang dan Mandarin dan Inggris, mereka kan kalau bahasa Inggris sudah menarik sekali lah, dikemas secara proses pembelajarannya ya, kurikulumnya, cara ada gambar, picture dictionary lengkap, bagus. Itu udah well done menurut saya. Nah, udah sempurna. Jepang dan Mandarin juga, Jepang menghadirkan manganya, animnya yang dia kuatkan gitu. Kalau saya lihat dari pengajaran-pengajaran situ, film-film, anim, itu menguatkan mereka dan menciptakan daya tarik bagi mahasiswa. Mandarin juga begitu. Semakin banyak orang Tiongkok datang ke Australia juga, terus bagaimana mereka berkomunikasi, kemudian mereka juga dengan ya film dan makanan, itu terutama makanan ya, resto-resto di sini juga sudah banyak tuh gitu. Jadi itu budaya itu masuk lewat situ. Kemudian dari siapa ini, ada as indicated by Pak Ridwan, the first speaker, the number of students learning in SA, Indonesian in SA, perhaps the other states as well, has been declining, and some schools even have closed the teaching practices. Betul sekali. I couldn't agree more. I wonder if you have any suggestion as to how it improve the kind of the situation here. Wah, menarik sekali. Bagaimana? Pertama, menurut saya kita balik lagi ke pemerintah ya, karena ini diplomasi pemerintah. Itu pertama. Semoga pemerintah Indonesia dalam hal ini Kementerian Kebudayaan atau dari KJRI atau KBRI yang memiliki fungsi diplomasi, yang pertama itu concern terhadap diplomasi bahasa. Yang kedua, budgeting. Yang kedua adalah budgeting. Ini harus kuat budgetingnya ya, karena penggelontoran dana yang dilakukan oleh Jepang, Tiongkok atau negara lain yang mengajarkan bahasa itu kuat sekali, dan dia mendirikan di mana-mana budgeting. Yang ketiga, sikap orang Indonesia terhadap bahasa Indonesia. Dari kitanya, menurut saya sikap mental orang Indonesia ini harus kuat, harus tidak boleh memiliki stigma yang buruk. Bagaimana kita mempelajari bahasa Indonesia? How natives learn Indonesian language? If our country is always something like have a problem, arguing, pokoknya banyak kerusuhan, kericuhan dan ribut mulu kerjanya. Nah, it is not interesting gitu for them. Apaan sih? Gimana dia mau belajar bahasa Indonesia? Orang aja rusuh, ribut mulu gitu. So, this is one of the indicators. Jadi, sikap mental orang Indonesia terhadap bahasa Indonesia sendiri, menurut saya harus dibangun ya, terutama bagi mereka yang di sini juga. Dan kegiatan-kegiatan seperti ini juga salah satu diantaranya untuk mempromosikan bahasa Indonesia. Kalau saya lihat, apalagi dengan pandemik seperti ini di Australia Selatan, saya lihat nggak ada kegiatan-kegiatan tentang bahasa, PPIA ya, saya kritik gitu. Nggak ada kegiatan-kegiatan tentang bahasa, budaya Indonesia, mana? Dengan adanya pandemi ini, ayo dong kita kreatif. Mungkin seperti ini saya apresiasi, atau yang lainnya. Mungkin itu aja dari saya. Terima kasih, Bu Moderator.
Satu lagi Pak, Pak Ridwan, satu lagi dari Ibu Ayu Widari, topik apa yang paling diminati siswa selain budaya, Pak?
Topik apa?
Topik apa yang paling diminati siswa selain budaya?
Selain budaya, mostly budaya. Tentunya kalau saya lihat kemarin itu sama mengajar, diantaranya pariwisata ya, dan film. Pariwisata itu paling menarik di Australia bagi orang Australia, karena kebanyakan mereka menyebut Bali adalah second home gitu. Jadi my second home gitu. Jadi rata-rata orang Australia liburan itu ke Bali. Nah, jadi mereka mencari tahu nih, selain Bali ada lagi nggak tempat lain, atau Jogja atau Mataram atau Lombok itu. Jadi mereka tertarik di situ. Dan yang kedua, selain itu mungkin makanan dan minumannya dan filmnya ya, foods dan film movies itu menarik buat mereka gitu. Itu sih Ibu yang kedua adalah pariwisata kalau menurut saya. Terima kasih.
Satu lagi.
Oh ya, ada satu lagi.
Masih ada ini pertanyaannya, berapa lama progres untuk pengajaran budaya dalam bahasa Indonesia dan apa tantangannya dari Pak Syafril angkat?
Oh ya, berapa lama ya? Untuk di sini sendiri satu semester aja nggak cukup kayak belajar bahasa Indonesia di sini satu semester aja, karena jujur saja tadi saya bilang tantangannya ini berkaitan dengan tantangan ya, challenges-nya adalah resources ya. Yang kedua, resources itu tidak cuma buku atau bahan ajar, tapi manusianya gitu. Maksudnya warga negara Indonesianya, WNI-nya di sini itu as the students, mungkin ada students mahasiswa yang lagi S2 atau S3, ayo bantu gitu. Itu tantangan buat saya. Karena mereka di sini fokus terhadap dirinya, padahal selain itu bisa juga mengembangkan diri si mahasiswa tersebut untuk terlibat dalam kegiatan-kegiatan pembelajaran bahasa Indonesia dan budaya gitu. Kan dari seluruh Indonesia nih yang beasiswa di sini nih S2, S3 nih, ayo gitu. Itu mungkin menurut saya tantangan ya. Ayo kita partisipasi gitu. Yang tadi saya bilang tantangan adalah sikap mental bangsa orang Indonesia sendiri terhadap bahasa dan budaya. Ayo, mari kita sama-sama bangun citra Indonesia yang bagus, yang baik, kemudian bahasa Indonesia yang diminati lagi, kemudian aktif kegiatan-kegiatan pembelajaran bahasa seperti ini. Saya rasa itu Bu Desi. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Ridwan. Ini ada beberapa pertanyaan dari untuk Ashley dan Hannah. Ashley terlebih dahulu, baru nanti Hannah ya. So the one who is going to answer first Ashley and then Hannah. Alright, so okay. Alright, Ashley, the question is from Ibu Andriani Marenta. Okay, have you? Yeah, okay. You noticed that? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
alright. Okay, please, Ashley.
Okay, thank you for the question. The question is about challenges maybe I face with Indonesian culture. The first thing is that I notice it's quite a different way of life. I think Indonesians are a bit more easygoing and flexible with time. And so the different aspect of life means that everything is different. Even if, like, for instance, one time Hannah and I wanted to watch a movie with our friend, but in Australia, if you say to someone 6 p.m., it's 6 p.m., but in Indonesia, it's not. So it makes everything a little different, and it's fine. I got used to it, but it's a big challenge for me. The second thing that is a challenge is that Indonesia places a lot of value in society about religion, and it's very different from Australia, because in Australia there are many people who are atheists, and I'm personally Catholic, but I have many friends who are atheists, and religion is not a big part of our lives. But it's very different in traveling to Indonesia, even hearing the prayer, or even meeting up with a friend and then she says I have to pray, and I say okay, I'll just wait. So that's something that's culturally very different. And the last thing is that there's so much diversity in Indonesia, and I feel like a challenge is how to learn about Indonesia beyond Java, because a lot of what I know is only in Java, and it doesn't really cover the whole of Indonesia, and so I would like to learn more.
Yeah. Nice. Great.
Okay, the next questions, Ashley, is from Pak Jamal Sharif. It is for both of you, Ashley and Hannah. The first one is how do you deal with the problem of formal Bahasa Indonesia differ with everyday Bahasa Indonesia?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you.
There are two questions actually, but then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a big challenge for me. I feel that the only way for me to learn is to actually practice speaking in the country, or maybe online if I speak to Indonesians. But the problem is right now I don't have anyone to practice with, so I want to join Flex, the language program with Aya, so that I can practice.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only way that I can personally learn, because it's quite different. Even if I buy a textbook, that's very different to in the country itself. And maybe I'll ask Hannah to share.
Okay. Actually, I would like to read also. Pak Jamal actually invites you to come to Banjarmasin.
I don't know if that is, but I would love to visit.
Yeah, it is in Kalimantan. And then he said that you are going to find a very different culture from Jogja or Bali.
Yes, I would love to.
We would love to come there, Pak. Pak, kita semua juga ingin Pak ke Banjarmasin, Pak.
We want to go.
Okay, thank you. Now we are going to have Hannah. Hannah?
Yes.
Where are you? Yes, okay. Hannah, please, the questions for Hannah from Ibu Andriani, please. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the challenges.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the challenges for learning Indonesian culture is that lots of different people to learn about culture, because you can't take the things that one person says as representative of the diversity of all of Indonesia. So I think it's really important to be able to speak to lots of people. And so a challenge is that being in Australia, the people that you speak to are all university students. So you only really get the perspective of, very educated Indonesians who have the privilege and the opportunity to travel to Australia. And that's very, very different from the experience of most other Indonesians, especially Indonesians that live in the desa. Like the experience is totally different. And I think when you learn about Indonesian culture, as Ashley said, it's very Javanese and very Kota-centric. And so I think a challenge would be to get out in the desa into some of the outer provinces like Kalimantan or Maluku or Papua to really learn about all of the different cultures.
What is the
And that is a challenge because it's hard to get to those provinces, and the opportunities that we have as Australian students are mainly in Bali or Java. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next question is that whether you have any suggestions how to improve situation here in Australia related to the students learning Bahasa Indonesia is getting decreasing nowadays, especially here in South Australia.
Yeah. It's very hard, and I think that it needs to happen on all levels. So I think, for example, the reason that Korean culture is so popular is because the Korean government is investing a lot in sending their culture out. So from the Indonesian side, the government could do to inspire sort of a K-pop version of Asian culture to get people excited from the youth. And then once people are excited at the youth level, they will get more invested. And so if you start learning at schools, then you feed on into university, and then you go into careers that have the Australia-Indonesia relationship as a core part. Yeah, and with things like the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, that's going to be even more important. So there is recognition from both governments that each other are important, and now it's about making that fun and exciting to get people interested in that.
Okay. Next question is for you. From Pak Bonifacius, what habits in communication with Indonesian people make you uncomfortable?
think for me, what made me most uncomfortable is the honesty of. So when people like my Indonesian nenek would be like, "Wah, Hana sudah gemuk ya." Oh no! Don't say that. That makes me sad. Yeah, so that sort of things are a bit uncomfortable because things like body image don't seem to be a sensitive issue in Indonesia. So I feel a bit uncomfortable. But I think over time I've gotten used to a lot of those things that make other people uncomfortable when they first go to Indonesia. So those very personal questions about, where are you from and what, like, are you married yet, or do you have children, or where's your boyfriend? Those sort of things were uncomfortable at the start, and now it's endearing, and I look at it as an opportunity to practice language rather than feel a bit malu.
Okay, next question for Hannah first, and then go back to Ashley later on. All right. Because there are many participants here who are teachers of the non-speakers of Bahasa Indonesia, or Bipa. We call it Bipa. Okay. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions for those tutors or teachers or instructors related to how to teach Bahasa Indonesia to be more suitable for Australian students' characters?
I think the sort of first thing that I wish that I was taught is the informal and more of just the way to speak in conversation. So I think we concentrate a lot on formal, on writing essays, on being able to be grammatically correct. But Indonesian, you can have a full conversation in Indonesian with a couple of words as long as you put the right sort of accent, which is another challenge that you have to learn. So when I speak, to my friends, I sort of speak like this, not very excited. But when in Indonesia, you have to be like, ada, a little bit lebay and smile through your face when you speak, which is very different for me. So when someone is like, sudah makan, I'll be like, sudah, or, have to be very dramatic, which is something that is new. And I think to be taught to be comfortable with that very early would be good, because rather than focusing on the words, focus on the vibe.
Try to express that, but then it is too lebay.
Yeah.
Okay. One more question is that. Pak Fitri here would like Hannah to share also the main activity of Ayah.
So there's many activities, and it depends on where you are. So Ayah operates both in Australia and Indonesia. So there is Ayah National, but there is also chapters in every Australian state, and also I think 5 branches across Indonesia. So in Jakarta, Bali, Eastern Indonesia as a group. There's one in Kupang and one in Makassar, and there's one somewhere else, Bandung, Jabar. So the main activities is the sort of motto of Australia is to connect, inform and inspire Australian and Indonesian youth. So doing lots of different activities to bring Australians and Indonesians together, to educate them about the culture and language, and also about opportunities, and to inspire them to become more involved in the Australia-Indonesia relationship. And those activities include everything from language exchanges to movie nights, education and malam karir, and to Congress, which happened for the first time this year. So, very diverse, and all the new members, they always present new ideas and have all sorts of different initiatives. So, if you have recommendations for people to join your local chapter that have ideas, they will incorporate that as well, as long as it brings Australians and Indonesian youth together.
Okay. All right. Now, Ashley, would you like to add related to other question from Pendika Parawisma about the any suggestions or recommendation for Bipa teachers to be more suitable to Australian students' characters?
I have not studied Indonesian in Australia, so it's a bit hard for me to speak. But what Hannah said I really agree with is that conversation is very important, because I think the more you practice conversation, then the more your confidence builds, and you feel comfortable to speak and try new words, and as Hannah said, be very expressive. So the first thing is maybe more emphasis on conversation, and the second thing is listening. I'm not sure about me, but in general, from the beginner class in UGM, listening was probably one of the biggest problems from everyone, because we could read, but then the teacher would say something that we understand. And so more teaching materials on listening, and listening not just about Indonesian culture, but listening about any conversation, because the speed of Indonesian is so fast, and so often I just nod and smile and understand everything. So maybe more listening and conversational focus. That would what I would like to see.
Okay, all right. Baik. Okay. Another question is for Hannah again. Have you joined Naila competition?
Oh, not yet. I don't think I'm confident enough in my bahasa to compete. But I definitely recommend all Australians to get involved with the competition. I think I should try it. I'm just a little bit, sedikit malu tentang bahasa saya.
Kenapa malu? Jangan malu-malu. Okay, alright. Okay, Ibu dan Bapak, rekan-rekan semuanya, karena memang kita terbatas dengan waktu dan juga sekarang sudah menunjukkan pukul 2.35 dan memang kita juga sudah agak memperpanjang waktu dari yang seharusnya. Baik, sebelum kita tutup acara, terlebih dahulu akan saya bacakan simpulan untuk hari ini. Obrolan kita hari ini, yang pertama memang akan banyak tantangan dan keunikan dari bahasa Indonesia atau budaya Indonesia, dan sebagai orang Indonesia sepatutnya kita merasa bangga dengan keunikan ini. Dan untuk tantangan tersendiri itu perlu kita pikirkan bersama sebetulnya bagaimana cara kita mengemas bahasa Indonesia, juga budaya Indonesia menjadi lebih menarik di mata para penutur asing yang bukan penutur bahasa Indonesia. Bagaimana cara kita menarik interest, how we are going to invite the interest of others to speak bahasa Indonesia or to learn bahasa Indonesia and also the culture of Indonesia. Saya juga perlu meng-highlight bahwa pada dasarnya menurut teman saya yang Australian, they said that Indonesia is actually a multi-countries gitu. Jadi bukan sebetulnya orang Indonesia itu sudah bukan lagi multi etnik, tetapi memang indeed pada dasarnya multi countries. You speak different languages, local languages, and then you add different cultures, but then you can stick together. And menurut orang Australia, beberapa orang Australia sendiri juga menyatakan keluar biasaan terhadap orang-orang Indonesia yang bisa sebetulnya kita hidup berdampingan satu dengan yang lainnya. Oleh karena itu, despite of the challenges or difficulties, kita patut merasa bangga. Mari saya mewakili Ppia Flinders University dan mewakili Ppia yang ada di Australia ingin mengajak semuanya untuk mari berbagi. Saya yakin banyak alumni dari Australia juga yang ikut di webinar ini. Mari kita bangga dan bangga terhadap bahasa Indonesia. Mari kita gunakan bahasa Indonesia dengan baik dan benar, walaupun saya juga belum menggunakan bahasa Indonesia dengan baik dan benar, masih gaul bahasanya dan masih juga lebay. Tetapi saya merasa patut untuk sebagai warga negara Indonesia, saya merasa patut untuk berbagi dan bangga terhadap bahasa dan budaya Indonesia. Terima kasih sekali lagi atas partisipasi Ibu dan Bapak, juga rekan-rekan semua. Saya juga ingin mengingatkan Ibu dan Bapak bahwa kami sudah mengirimkan di email Ibu dan Bapak, juga rekan-rekan semuanya, mengenai umpan balik, karena kami memerlukan evaluasi dari Ibu dan Bapak semuanya terkait webinar ini sebagai bahan kami untuk meningkatkan untuk perbaikan kami di masa yang akan datang. Mudah-mudahan kami juga bisa mengadakan lagi kegiatan-kegiatan semacam ini dan bisa disokong ataupun didukung oleh beberapa universitas lain yang sudah banyak bergabung di sini. Ada teman-teman dari Widya Tama, dari UNY, dari UNJ, dari Poltekim, dari Ppia. Banyak teman-teman saya juga di sini. Sebetulnya ini bisa menjadi jalan juga bagi beberapa universitas di Indonesia yang ingin bekerja sama dengan Flinders University, gitu. Dan nanti bisa menghubungi kami. Dan juga ingin saya beritahukan bahwa untuk e-sertifikat itu akan kami bagikan khusus untuk yang sudah hadir di acara webinar kali ini. Walaupun yang sudah daftar itu sangat banyak, tetapi ternyata yang hadir kurang dari itu, dan kami hanya akan membagikan e-sertifikat bagi yang hadir saja. Dan untuk sisa materi, tadi Ashley sudah membagikan materinya. Oh, Pak Ridwan juga sudah ternyata. Terima kasih Pak Ridwan yang sudah membagikan materinya. Juga Hannah, would you like to share? Ya, oke. Jadi bagi teman-teman semuanya, Ibu dan Bapak juga yang ingin mendownload, akan kami juga simpan nanti di website, baik itu di website jembatan ataupun di Ppia Flinders University. Dan untuk sertifikat, insya Allah maksimal 7 hari kerja akan kami bagikan melalui surel. Gitu. Terima kasih Ibu dan Bapak, sekali lagi terima kasih banyak atas partisipasinya. Great appreciation also to Pak Ridwan, Arifin, untuk Ashley dan untuk Hannah. Thank you so much for today. What a great presentation and sharing. I hope that we can join together again. Alright, okay. Terima kasih sekali lagi. Selamat siang dan mohon maaf atas segala kekurangan kami.
Terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Terima kasih semuanya.
Terima kasih. Bye. Pupus kita.